Welcome to UX Banter Podcast Season 2.
I'm your host Dushyant
Kanungo. Here, I speak with industry leaders about their journey in design and know more about what inspires them to become the best in the industry. This podcast is presented by Galaxy UX Studio and powered by Galaxy Weblinks, an Inc. 5000 organization.
Welcome to the show, Andy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so this is our first episode that we are recording with in person. We are here in Austin, Texas, and Andy has been gracious enough to join us for this season finale of season 2. So I'm sure that this is going to be absolutely phenomenal.
Thank you. It's exciting to do this in person. It's exciting to be first of something.
Okay, so Andy, when we all talk about on all these episodes that we talked about the journeys that people have taken, the paths they have chosen to come to a certain way. How was your journey like? I mean, you have about close to 30 years in the industry. How does the journey has been?
It's been incredible. It's a phenomenal journey. I started my career in UX when UX wasn't even a thing. It was back in those days, there was industrial design and product design, and then the web design started showing up. And so I was probably in my 20s working in New York in a design agency called LBI Digital. At least that's what it's called now. Back then it was called like a media lab. And technologies, of course, were very different. The approach to UX was very different. It was really more of building out the initial kind of web 1.10, right?
Right.
Working with different clients, which was a great experience. Working with different clients and working on different platforms and different web experiences, that different business needs, I think opened up a great foundation for what became future work in California for brands like TiVo and PlayStation and NETGEAR.
So when we all talk about working for these big brands, there's always comes a point when people try to choose that the bigger the brand, the bigger their profile is going to be. So do you think that brands do impact one's career trajectory or where they're headed?
I think so, to a certain extent in California, at least 10 years ago or so, everybody wanted to work for Google. And I think everybody still wants to work for Google, right? And Apple. And I do think that certain companies do open up doors to better careers. As far as the design is concerned, as far as being a better designer, I don't think that that's necessarily true, right? The better the team that you're working with, the more likely you're going to learn and the more likely you're going to be in a supportive environment of building great products. That's one. And two, working on complicated projects and complicated products, such as healthcare, for instance, or finance, or multi-user environments, where you have to consider things that are not as straightforward as say, you're building a single product that has a same path with simple one type of user, right? But yeah, I think the advantage of working for those companies is they tend to have really good teams. And they tend to have good processes.
Right.
You're learning the right things. You're hopefully teaching the right things.
Okay, so on that note, I will just let everybody know that one of the biggest products that Andy has worked on and you might have seen is the PlayStation. So Andy, tell us more about it, because that is something that we always think about, that using such a popular product and getting behind the scenes about what was the journey of from a design point of view it has been.
It's a great question. It's one of the larger teams, lots of responsibility, partially mainly building out the organization, building out the team, and of course, team of people that are very excited to build such a well-loved product. Right. A product that has also many complexities, product that at that time is shifting to services and shifting to software services. So
is it different type of pressure on the team while working for it? I mean, knowing that it is going to be phenomenal.
It is. There's a different type of pressure. Everybody typically is a gamer. Everybody is very closely associated with that genre, right? Also working in that type of a company, which is so large and so multinational and so many considerations, so many markets that the company is rolling into, was different experience.
So from a design leader in the industry as a service executive to now an entrepreneur where you are actually willing to set up a company organization where you are actually offering UX services from your own umbrella, how much different it is from the perception of getting something done in-house and whereas selling UX in the general market.
You mean how it's different?
Yeah, the sell point, I think, because selling UX within the organization and selling UX to startups, for example.
I think it's a great question. Today, there's still a lot of opportunity in being able to communicate the value of this external, so to speak, organization, right? That can do something that in majority of companies here is associated as a very internal type of a job, right? And that is the challenge of a services organization coming in to partner with any customer. It's been a challenge in my entire career with agencies coming in and trying to augment the team, help the team. There typically is that natural kind of competitiveness between the team that's inside the company and the team that's coming in with fresh ideas and new starts and new ideas. But I think there's still a lot of opportunity in our company that then to tell that story better. Many companies that sell development resources, and we sell engineering, a majority of our business actually is focused on engineering and marketing, right? And then UX, of course, comes in naturally as product building organization, right? So that's the big pitch we give to our customers. We help customers go to market faster.
And you have seen that there is awareness about the UX and the services, and the seat at the table has been coming up. People more and more are paying focus to it, or has the perception changed?
I think the great thing is more and more people value design now more than they used to value design 10 years ago. I think everybody is accepted in startup world and in corporate world that design is a real partner to product management and to engineering. A lot of that pressure, I think, comes for companies actually from investors. Investors are very savvy, and so investors see that the value of design is driving profit.
How much the bigger companies have played a role in pushing for a good UX? For example, if Apple is known for the UX umbrella that they have pushed in general. So do you think that the torchbearer have been these bigger organizations who are leading smaller teams and companies to look into this?
I think it's a bit of both. I think there are some excellent companies that are large companies like Apple, companies like Intuit, companies like Coca-Cola, companies like GE that invested a lot in, and there's many more that invested a lot in design. It took a lot of leadership of UX leaders that came in to typically convince their bosses, the CEOs or chiefs of other departments to invest in that. But eventually those companies are the companies that win on the market. And it's documented in their financial performance, right?
Sure.
That a lot of that is attributed to design, right? Because a design creates a differentiator, right?
The ROI is now visible. People can see
the ROI is visible. And that probably is the largest challenge of a design leader, is to show the organization the ROI on design. If you show that, typically most CEOs will support you and say, okay, I see this is returning. This is helping the margin. This is growing the top line. This has financial metrics. This grows customer satisfaction, or whatever the metric, the business metric might be
that they have set up.
But I think the same could be said actually for startups, because a lot of innovative startups are the ones that compete on experience. Like take, for instance, Uber or Airbnb, right? It's not just about the software design, it's about the innovation itself. Right. I mean, those are just minor examples and not that recent of examples. There's thousands of examples. But I think, in short, the trend I see is innovative businesses, innovative startups are starting to compete on design, right? And design spoken broadly, not just say software design, hardware design, industrial design, but more of innovative level of thinking, coming up with ideas how what Uber used to be, say 5-6 years ago,
Of Netgear, how it was before. I mean, it's just from just square boxes to now innovative design products that look far more in-home. I think you were a part of Netgear when that transformation happened.
correct, and that transformation stood heavily on kind of opening up typically the set it and forget it device that sits in the corner of your room and connecting the user to it. And so how do you connect the user to a device that sits in the corner? You got to give it the features, right? You have to open it up. Someone has to communicate between a product
And the device.
the device. But I think the ultimate success was, in that case, Arlo security cameras. Right? There's a highly interactive product, highly engaging product in a space that's very personal to most people, right? People that are monitoring the safety of their environment and their home. So we did a lot of great work there.
Sure, absolutely. So with that, we are moving to our UX Banter Rapid Fire. Have you heard about these before?
I've never heard of these before. I'm excited. Let's see how I score.
Okay, so these are just questions which have nothing to do with UX or nothing to do with anything in general. But you have to answer the first thing that you
comes to mind.
can. Okay. So one day in your life you would like to relive.
One day in my life that I would like to relive. Wow, that's a
loaded question.
It's a loaded question, but no. I love travel, so I would easily relive any of my fun trips to Latin America or Europe.
Okay, so you are going out or staying in?
I'm going out.
Okay, sunrise or sunset?
Sunset.
Okay, fine dining or fast food?
Fine dining.
Any recommendations?
Plenty. Where would you like the recommendations? Los Angeles, Bay Area, Austin. I'll give you one since we're in Austin, Texas. From Austin, Texas, my recommendation would be Uchi, which is a phenomenal Japanese restaurant.
Uchi. Let's try that out. Books or movies?
Books.
Which one?
Well, many. One of the recent ones that I read was a story about Nike, which is the book called Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. And it's a story of how Phil Knight builds Nike brand and Nike company. So great book. Many other books.
And first thing you do when you wake up?
Oh no! Unfortunately, I pick up my phone.
And finally, your favorite mobile app?
My favorite mobile app. Soon it's going to be the app that my team helped me build and you helped me build, which was the Auto Squadra, right? The company that will be a luxury auction house for vehicles.
So if for the uninitiated, Andy has close to 15 cars, I think, and which ranges from Porsche to Ferrari to Mercedes and you name it. So which one of them is your favorite?
That's like asking what is your favorite kid, and all of them are close to the same age. The true answer to that is, yeah, I do love cars. It's my huge passion. I love both driving and collecting, but I want to say they go through phases, right? And I love old cars. I love typically manual cars. I love cars that are difficult to drive. So these days it's my 1965 Porsche 356, which is the very beginning of the Porsche era.
All right. So do you think the user experience of these devices now, as 5G is on the horizon, the connected cars will become a thing? Do you think that autonomous cars will be the future? Are you planning to look into the technology or excited about it?
Absolutely, yeah. It is the future. I think the future is already here. It's being built. I mean, obviously you have great manufacturers like Tesla and Lucid and Rivian on the market, and many more coming up in Europe as well. I think it's going to be both new technologies and a massive disruptor of how other technologies are impacted, right? So to support full autonomous driving, more than the cars have to be considered.
So planning to buy any autonomous car yourself?
Of course, at some point.
So
At some point in
again, here's the
2035.
news. If a connoisseur like Andy goes on and gets a autonomous car, then we can actually rest assured that it is going to be something that we can also buy. So recommendations are always welcome. All right. So now, because it has been a very different field and era, and people have been designing from those graphic design days to now connected technology designs, the user experience has become a heart of it, but it has transformed phenomenally for everybody. So if anybody who is just starting out in the career, what your advice would be for them to watch out for?
That's a great question. I would say look out for great products, study those great products, see what you like about them, and understand how the features are being built. And for designers in specific, understand what developers have to consider. Work very closely with developers, create those partnerships with engineers, and leverage also the engineers for technology pieces, because a lot of that innovation does come in from the engineering side, right? Sure. So many examples around this. Back in the day, you take something like the input fields, right? And you want to input the address or the credit card. You typically would enter them 5-10 years ago. Today, you can scan them. Today, you can photograph them. Today, you can compress that amount of fields, right? So that's just a micro example of
knowing what is possible.
Knowing what is possible and knowing how to
exploit the technology.
Exactly, how to exploit the technology. And I think that's the future is incredible, right? The introduction of crypto, right? And the introduction of NFT. There's just going to be so much change in virtually everything, right?
And asking one question from the person point of view, which is that you are a veteran when it comes to design leadership. So if you have to give any advice, say for somebody like me, where, what sort of work that I do, and things happen in the same middle to upper management, and you've been very senior in the domain. What your advice would be about the design leadership side of things?
I think there's several aspects to this, right? I think one aspect is having an ability to build a phenomenal team, right? Phenomenal team what is a phenomenal team, right? It's people you trust and people that have talents and people that understand the business and people that understand the discipline you're in, right? On the other side, the great leader has to know the business they're in. And in our case, in services, yours and now mine, you have to understand multiple businesses and you have to understand them relatively quickly. You don't really have that much time to absorb details of someone else's business, right? These two things always come to mind. And of course, bring that business knowledge to your team, right? The team has to have a mission, right? The team has to have a mission, and then many leaders make a mistake of not fully engaging the team around that understanding, that in turn produces better design.
So communication, hiring for the right skills, making sure that the team knows what the business is about, what the end goal is, and everybody is actually shooting for the same goal.
Yeah, absolutely. And products themselves tend to provide that opportunity, especially great products. When you're building something you're passionate about, you want to keep on building. But I think it becomes our job as leaders to get people excited about those products. Right? You don't always pick those products. Everybody wants to work on a BMW, right? Everybody wants to work on a Ferrari, right? But especially what we do in services, you work on all kinds of different things. And so the excitement is actually understanding your customer, right? And understanding what they need.
Thank you, Andy. I think those were the most valuable lessons. I mean, this was the first time when I asked some advice for myself, because I put you in high regard because, the relationship that we have had since last many years. And I think that is the, general understanding that we have, that is the right direction to go, or getting directions from you, hand holding on multiple occasions. It has come in very handy and helped us reshape the team that we are actually running with your guidance and direction. So with that, I would like to thank you once again for being the guest for today's episode. And thank you everybody for listening in. And this was the season finale for season 2 for UX Banter podcast. We will come back in next season with more guests who will have a very big shoes to fill in after the rota that we had in the last 2 seasons. So stay tuned and don't go away.
Yeah.
So thank you once again, and
Thank you for having me. Fantastic time. Anytime.
see you then. Bye.